Hey there, my name's Allison Baggerly, and my husband and I paid off over $111,000 worth of debt without making a fortune. Back then, there were 5 things that we did that really helped us gain momentum, have a plan, and stay on track during the process. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, it could be hard to stay motivated, disciplined, and on track for that amount of time. In fact, I think a lot of people give up. So let's talk about the first 5 things that we did to help us pay off that debt, so that way you can do exactly what we did, follow the same steps, and actually see success and not give up this time. Let's dive in. The first thing that we did was we faced the painful truth. And I say painful truth because we actually had no idea how much debt we were in. My husband and I had never talked about money before when we were dating or engaged, which I do not recommend, right? Do as I say, not as I do. We had never discussed that. So we had to actually total it all up. He had his debt, I had my debt. We lumped it all together. We got married at a very young age, so it just made sense for us to do it that way. We needed to know our starting point. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to know how much debt we had, and I was shocked to learn exactly how much it was. I didn't think it was as bad as it was until I saw it. The way we did this was we listed out each debt because we needed to know exactly where we were starting. We had to have a starting point. So if you're in debt, do this. List out every single debt. Here's an example. Let's say we had a student loan. We had many student loans, but they were broken up into different types. So we would list out the current balance. How much do we actually owe on it right now, today, at this very moment? What is the minimum payment every single month? And then what is the interest rate? So we listed all of these out. If you don't know how much you have, if you're like, I don't even know where to get access to it, Allison, what am I supposed to do? One easy way to do this is to actually pull your credit report. You can do that for free. I think it's once or twice a year. I'll have to double check on that for you. But pull your credit report and all of your debts will be listed right there. So then you can see exactly who you owe, how much you owe, all the things. And then you can dive a little bit deeper to figure out what are your monthly minimum payments, what's the interest rate, all that stuff. We had to know exactly how much we had. We wanted to list it out and see every single thing. Really, it's like facing your truth. It was scary. It was frustrating. I was shocked. I shouldn't have been, but I was. It was good because then we knew our starting point. It wasn't real until we saw it all laid out on paper. So here's what you can do. You can open a spreadsheet or even just get a notebook. You can do it this way and just list out every debt you have. What is it? Is it a car loan? What is the balance? What is the minimum monthly payment and the interest rate? List it all out so you know your numbers. Sometimes we don't do this because we're too scared to see the truth of it, right? But we have to start somewhere. You do. That's the truth. And it won't be as terrible as you're probably making it out in our head. Sometimes we build these things up to be really scary, really difficult and bad in our head. But once we do it, it's like, okay, I made that out to be a lot worse than it really was. That's your action tip. I do have a debt-free tracker. So I did not have this whenever I was paying off debt. I wish I did, but you can grab it. It is my goodbye debt tracker where you can literally list out your payments, your interest rates. It will even calculate when you are going to be debt free. You can say, I want to make extra payment. If I put an extra $500, how does that change my debt? It'll give you the order to pay them off in, whether or not you want to do debt snowball or debt avalanche. It's a wonderful free resource to help you get started on your debt-free journey. So you can get that link down below or just go to inspirebudget.com/goodbye-debt and get that free debt tracker. The second thing that we did when we wanted to pay off debt is we built a budget that worked for us. Now, I will say that we made a huge mistake when we first started budgeting. I will never forget. We wrote a budget for the version of ourselves that we think we are. We wrote a budget for the version of us that never went out to eat, never spent money impulsively, never did anything or went anywhere. We wrote a budget for literally just the bare necessities, just the very minimum of what we needed. And we told ourselves, this is great. This is exactly what our life looks like. But guess what? It's not. That was not our life. We wrote a budget for the version of us that literally does not exist. Instead, you need to write a a budget that is realistic. And over time, we learned how to do that. I will let you know we don't still budget like that. Thank goodness. Instead of budgeting for the ideal version of ourselves, we budget for the real version of ourselves. That looks like ditching this perfect budget where we never pick up Chick-fil-A on a busy Thursday afternoon. And instead, it included Target runs, takeout, entertainment. It included being able to buy a movie on Amazon Prime if we wanted to. So that made a massive difference because when we were able to write something that was realistic, we were able to realistically see how much extra money do we have that we can send to debt and feel good about it. If your budget feels like a punishment, it's not gonna last. It shouldn't feel like this terrible, no good, very bad thing. It should feel like something that aligns with your life. Now, when you're paying off debt, does that mean you have to pick and choose what you wanna spend money on so you can send extra money to debt? Yeah. You will have to do that, but there's nothing wrong with that. I use my budget spreadsheet and I include things like restaurants, shopping. I always include a buffer in my budget. This is a line item in my budget that allows me to go over budget in some areas. If we spend more on groceries than we had planned, it's okay because my buffer kind of absorbs some of that extra overspending that maybe I didn't account for. So my action tip for you, if you're starting, is to just start with a basic plan and build from there. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. It needs to be flexible. Make sure that when you are writing a budget, you include things that make you happy, things that you know you're going to be spending money on. If you know that every Friday you go to your favorite coffee shop on your way to work and it brings you joy, include it in your budget. Just because you're paying off debt doesn't mean that you can't get your weekly lattes or spend money on your Pilates class that you really love. After writing a budget, our third step was to stop spending money on the extras in life that we didn't even enjoy. I think that the world, society, our friends, our family, they all try to tell us where to spend our money. I mean, obviously stores and brands do this, but I think that friends can do this, family can do this. It's not like you need to spend your money here, but there are small opinions, small things. Maybe we just see our friends spending money one way and it looks fun and we think that'll be fun for me too. And maybe it's not. We had to really look at our spending and say, what do we not even enjoy? And one of the things that I knew I needed to cut from my spending whenever we were paying off debt was emotional spending. Now, I am an emotional spender. I like to spend money. Yes, I have a business called Inspired Budget. I teach people how to manage their money well, and I like to spend money. It makes me happy. I get the thrill, the high from spending money, and that's okay. But I also need to have boundaries in place. So one thing I used to do was I used to go and wander around Kohl's, yes, Kohl's, the department store, in the evening because they were open late whenever I was emotional, whenever I was sad or stressed or anything like that. So I had to cut out those habits that I had in place that weren't serving me. We also canceled stuff that we didn't use or value. I will never forget, we canceled cable before it was the norm. I kid you not. We canceled cable in I want to say it was 2012. We were like, nope, no more. And that wasn't normal because the only streaming service out there was Netflix and maybe Hulu, but it wasn't the everyday norm to not have cable anymore. But we didn't value it as much as we valued paying off debt and making extra debt payments. And so it went. We were just fine and just happy to only use Netflix and Hulu and watch shows a day later on Hulu. Like, it really was okay. I kid you not, we even put the TV antenna, like those ears, on the roof to be able to just get standard cable in our house before it was cool. However, I will say that cutting out these extras that we truly didn't even value, we were just spending money on them because we always had been. It gave us simplicity. Like, it gave us breathing room. And that's one thing about not having a lot of expenses, not subscribing to every single streaming service or every single form of entertainment you can. it gave us breathing room in our budget, in our life. And I will always say I prefer simplicity over just having all the things because I think it just is more peaceful. So during that process, we definitely said goodbye to cable TV. We didn't stop going out to eat, but we started being more mindful about when we were planning to go out to eat. In the past, we were more reactive with spending money on food. It was like, oh, I had a long day and I don't really know what we're eating. Let's just go pick up some food, or let's just go out to eat after all. And we would end up going out to eat a lot. So instead, we started planning. We knew we wanted to go out to eat. We knew we wanted to have easy days where we could just order a pizza or pick up Chick-fil-A. And so instead of just letting those things happen to us and us being reactive, we started being proactive and we started adding it into our weekly meal plan. These days, we have every Friday. We do not cook. You will not find us cooking dinner on a Friday night. We either pick up Chick-fil-A, grab something on the way home, go out to eat, whatever it is, order a pizza, and we plan for that in advance. We also stopped spending money on clothes we didn't need. It helped whenever I was working to pay off debt that I was pregnant. My clothes stopped fitting me and I didn't want to buy new clothes. So that helped as well. If you want to pay off debt and you're thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? What does this actually look like? Then you can start by just doing a simple spending audit. This is when you look over your last 30 days of spending. Don't just look at your debit card. If you're actively using a credit card, look at that as well. And just see, where is my money going? Do I like where it's going? If not, what am I willing to cancel? What is it that if I stop spending money on, I won't really miss it? I promise you are spending money on things that you are not using and you will not miss. I promise you. So figure out what those are, even if it's just one or two expenses that you can cut a month, so that you can free up some of that extra money and send it to debt so that way you can pay off your debt faster. The fourth step we took when it came to paying off over $100,000 of debt without making a fortune was we had to focus on one debt at a time. I think mentally that's all I could handle at the time. I was like, this is too overwhelming. I'm trying to learn all of these new things at once. So we're just going to focus on one debt at a time. Doing that gave us momentum. Now, let me explain. When I say focus on one debt at a time, we were still making the minimum payments on everything else. So we were making the minimum payment on my car, on my student loans, on my husband's student loans. But maybe we were just focusing on one of my student loans, like my smallest balance student loan. We were just focusing on that. So any extra money, we still made the minimum payments on everything. Any extra money went to just that student loan. That gave us momentum because we were able to pay it off and feel good about it. We were able to celebrate. We were like, what? We can actually do this. And so we used the debt snowball method so that we could kind of build up that confidence, get a quick win, and move on to the next one. And I will tell you that by doing that, it allowed us to just hone in and focus on one debt instead of looking at our mountain of debt and say, oh my gosh, this feels like the needle is never moving. It's going so slow, which felt like took us 4.5 years. Okay, it wasn't overnight. Instead of looking at that huge number, we were able to just focus on one thing at a time. And it felt like we were making progress. Even if it was slow, it still felt good. It felt like progress to us. That one clear goal gave us progress we could feel. We filled out a debt-free thermometer along the way to help us stay focused. And what I would do with this debt-free thermometer is when I started losing momentum, when I started feeling like this is getting really hard, is this really worth it? I don't know. Maybe we'll just always have debt. That is when I would grab my red Sharpie and I would go color in our debt-free thermometer, because that simple act of seeing how much I got to shade in, it made me see this is worth it. Like, this feels good. It feels good to know that we're getting closer to being done. And that gave me that adrenaline rush. It gave me that momentum back to help me get through the times that were hard. My action tip for you is to pick your smallest debt or just one debt. It could be your highest interest debt or your smallest balance debt and go all in on that debt. Still make the minimum payments, continue to make the minimum payments on all your other debts, but go all in on that one debt so that way you can see progress and get that adrenaline rush and that momentum right away. And then get yourself a tracker. Track your debt payoff and use that as well to help keep you going and push you forward whenever you're sitting here thinking, is this even really worth it? I promise you, it is. The fifth step we did whenever we were paying off debt was we celebrated every step, even the small ones. I'm not gonna lie to you, progress felt so slow to us. This was not one of those like overnight success stories that you hear about online. We were normal people with a lot of debt. That's what it came down to. It took us 4.5 years. And during that 4.5 years, it felt like everything was going at a snail's pace. When that happened, we had to celebrate even small milestones to keep ourselves motivated. We would celebrate even $100 wins. Like those matter too. It was more about noticing that we were inching closer to what we wanted that helped us really stay on track when things got hard. Just celebrating small things, even if it was just, we got this down to the next $1,000. Those small wins and celebrating those kept us going for over 4 years. And when I tell you, there were so many times I wanted to give up. And I can promise you, if you're on this journey, you're gonna wanna give up. It's not about if you'll wanna give up, it's about when you'll wanna give up. Celebrating even small milestones will help keep you motivated and get through those times of just saying, this isn't worth it anymore. Some small celebrations, they don't need to be grand. They don't need to be crazy. We would do something like, okay, the next time we pay off a loan, even if it's a small one, let's order pizza and binge Netflix. Let's do something small. I might pick up a really pretty bouquet of flowers from the grocery store as a way to say like, let's celebrate this. Even if it's something small, we would do it. And then I will also say, one thing that kept us motivated is we planned to celebrate with a big trip, just my husband and I, to Mexico for 5 nights when we were done. So we also had like this big trip planned that we knew this was like our trophy, if you will. It was our big celebration trip. We had that to look forward to as well. But in the meantime, we still celebrated those small yet still important moments of progress in our journey. An action tip for you is to choose a few easy, fun, low-cost ways to celebrate a win. What that's going to do is it's going to reinforce that this journey is fun, that it's worth it. It doesn't have to be miserable and terrible and no good all the time. It really doesn't. Whether you pick up a pretty bouquet of flowers from Trader Joe's or you say, you know what, we're going to go to a nicer restaurant this week to celebrate that. Have a couple of things, put it down in the notes app of your phone so that way you can acknowledge that hard work and effort along the way. Overall, those were 5 things that we did when we wanted to pay off over 6 figures of debt. If you're wanting to get started on your debt-free journey, or if you've already started and you want to track your progress along the way, grab my free Goodbye Debt Tracker. It's 100% free. It's a Google Sheets, so you can update your debt and watch it shrink over time. It's really motivating, and it allows you to see what happens if I were to send an extra $100 or $200 a month to my debts. You will be surprised at how quickly you can become debt-free. Like how much quicker the progress is when you're willing to do that. You can grab that for free down below. I'll put the link down below. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to follow and subscribe for more.